We'll get it out. Not yet. I'm working on it. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Mr. Tamaco?
There are a few additions, Madam Chair. Gordon Buchanan ceremony for
What number?
5B4.
5B4.
Yes, please. 5B5 charity golf tournament. 5B6 resource road. And 5.E3 hospital road.
I would like to add one, I guess at the end, an in-camera session if we have time. And I'm thinking, I was looking at the agenda thinking it's very short and we might have time to do what we were going to do on Friday tonight. That was my thinking. So I think we get time and we're game for it. I'd like to add that, and it was regarding land.
Is that possible? Mr. Tamaco? Do you have the information?
I do have the information. I gave it to council before. I have made copies for council as well.
Ma'am? In camera. Any other additions? Could I have then a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Councillor Panasic has made that motion. All in favor? Motion is carried. Next item of business, scheduled delegations. Are there any scheduled delegations? No scheduled delegations. Are there any public delegations? We have 1, 2. Could you step forward, Mr. Wakel? Please keep your name for the recording secretary.
James Weichel. I've seen that you're considering turning the school zones in town into playground zones. The only problem that I see with this is that both St. Andrews and High Prairie Elementary are on provincial highways, and as such are not subject to these changes. Historically, the provincial government has been very non-receptive towards this idea. If you choose to lower the speed limits on the town streets surrounding the schools, that is well within your ability to do so. But it is my belief that for something to be effective and achieve the desired results that you're looking for, it has to be the same everywhere. Some things to consider as you make this decision are that we're a major route for truck traffic through the north. We do not want to put obstacles in their way as they travel. Both the playground areas at St. Andrews and High Prairie Elementary are fully fenced with marked crosswalks and lights. In the case of High Prairie Elementary, there is in fact a parking lot between the highway and the playground fence as well. Also to consider is the fact that 50th Avenue is our truck route through town, and the town has been after the government for years to front some cash to repair this road, or even take it over altogether. I believe that having fewer obstacles to the provincial government taking over this road would make any transfer to the province quicker and easier. And last but not least, one need only look to the city of Edmonton, where they did away with their school zones altogether in the 1970s. Well, I don't believe that this is something, I don't believe this is the answer. It's something to consider as well.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Mr. Wakel?
How much calmer this side of my hair is.
It's always nice to have you come.
I did not read it.
Thanks for coming out and voicing your concerns. Appreciate it.
The city of Edmonton had no school zones.
No.
We haven't for quite a few years.
Yeah, the 1970s. When I went to school there, like every school yard is fenced. And in fact, the land in Edmonton, the school ground surrounding the schools is owned by the city of Edmonton. The school district, I guess it would be in the city, all they own is essentially the footprint of the school building itself is on. That might be one of the reasons behind it, but everything is fenced. But there are crosswalks that are lighted.
Any other questions, Ms. Elston? Could we get a copy of your presentation and just let it be distributed to council if you give?
There's some horrendous spelling errors in there.
Don't hold it against.
Oh, good. Now, this isn't on the agenda for tonight, I was told, but when was that going to be coming back to council?
I believe actually, Mr. Panasic, when did you?
Well, I thought it was coming back tonight, and then when I saw it wasn't on the agenda, I was a little surprised.
So it'll be the next meeting.
Okay. All right, well, I'll stick around. Well, the next one. I'm gonna go home, I'll watch this on YouTube later.
Very good.
So where your parents are.
How do you like it on YouTube?
It's good. You gotta turn it up a little bit to hear it. The microphone, I don't know if you can position it any differently, but if you, as long as you haven't got background noise, like music playing in the background, you can hear it. Not too bad. You just gotta turn it up.
Just gotta turn down your stereo while you're watching, that's all.
Well, what? I got some Walkman damage from the 80s.
We need microphones. It's only been a year,
Wow.
year and a half.
If all you have to do is if you just speak clearly and enunciate everything, you can hear. All of you actually. It doesn't particularly matter which one. I was able to hear all of you on YouTube.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Public delegations, Mr. Berger, would you step forward and give your name to the recording secretary?
Would that be
I'm not sure if it's Mr. Martinson, is it you? Yes.
Jeff Berger?
This is so.
Two things. It's interesting that, talking about the cameras, over a year ago, a local company put in answered the advertising the RFP and has still not heard anything back, no acknowledgement at all that it was received. There has been discussion here from the CAO that the reply or the answer, or whatever in the RFP, did not meet the specifications. But as I said, there has been no discussion at all with that company on why it did not meet the specifications, what was wrong with the reply, with the proposal. I've seen the proposal. There was 4 different options that were presented, at least 4 different options, maybe 5. But it's just concerning me that it's been over a year and no acknowledgement. I've been to council here and there has been no acknowledgement at all that this company is interested, and I don't really know what the progress of that is, but I do think that a local business that was interested in enough to reply to that and was actually willing to talk about the cameras and the requirements here, didn't even get an acknowledgement. That being said, an acknowledgement or an opening a discussion, thank you for your letter. We'll let you know what's going on down the road. I don't think that that's good enough, but maybe it is for you people. That's my first thing. The second thing is I understand that this is kind of actually kind of amusing. I didn't realize that I was a major developer in town here. And it's really hard to be a major developer in town here when, from any kind of a developer, I put in an offer, not an offer, but an inquiry to buy 2 acres of surface land in the industrial park, and I believe that that's almost a year and a half ago. And I have heard nothing back since then. And I came to council a few months ago and asked what was happening with that, and I still haven't had any answer. And I've been told that I withdrew my application or my inquiry, whatever. I don't recall that, but I am getting old. So maybe I did, but can you refresh me when I did that?
The day that Mr. McCray came here, McCray, you were sitting in front of the office and you walked into my office and then said, Kelly, I want it back. Incidentally, that day, I'd also talked to Mayor Cox, who had, she just made a statement that we need to talk to Dave McCray after, then we can discuss this issue. I don't remember that conversation. I was surprised because I remember the paper that you got from me, and you had a pen, and then you wrote it in my office. It was sitting on my desk all the time. And so when you asked for it, I had no choice but to give it to you. There's no motivation for me to say to you that you got a piece of paper when you didn't ask for it. There's just no motivation for it.
If I recall the conversation, my recollection of that is I asked you for a copy of it. I didn't say I wanted it back. I asked you for a copy of it.
I gave you the original, from my recollection. You asked for the original, I gave it to you. Let's start from the beginning. You didn't even come to my office with any pre-prepared information. You came to my office, asked about the land, and then requested for a piece of paper from me. And then you decided to write the offer right in my office. That was the beginning of my interaction with you. I know in the course of the discussion, you wanted to know how much the land was and blah, 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 blah. When we tried to calculate that, you said, oh, you guys, you don't even know your math. You said that. That was the conversation that we had. Weeks after that, when Dave McCray was here to talk about land planning, you came, you sat in front there. I was out somewhere here. I came, I said, hello, Mr. Berger. And then he said, Kevin, can I see you? He went into my office and he said, can I have my paper back? And I gave the paper back. But if you were intending that I should have made a copy before giving it to you, that was not made very clear to me at the time. The original that I had, I gave to you. And that's my recollection. And like I said, I don't have any motivation to even misconstrue or mislead anybody over a piece of paper. There's no.
I'm really sorry that I'm not jumping through some hoops here. That I wasn't aware that I was supposed to present a package to you. I wasn't aware that I needed a professional presentation. All you asked for in your office was, can you put it in writing? And I said, sure, right now, if that's what you need. And you never said, well, this is totally unacceptable. You never said anything like that. So now I'm getting the impression that I need a professional presentation of some kind.
No.
Can you explain that to me?
I didn't say that.
All right, no, that's no problem. As a public delegation.
Well, okay. I'm still interested in buying 2 acres of service land in the West End Industrial Park. And maybe one of these days somebody will get back to me about this. Okay?
Apparently, we don't have a copy anymore.
So every time I come here, it's just another day until I rewrite it again.
Rewrite it one more time, please.
You have a standard, apparently, that
Do we have a standard or a letter of
I
interest?
didn't make any statement of
No,
this.
okay,
you
please
made it right here.
just send a letter that you are interested in purchasing 2 acres of land in our West.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
appreciate you coming. That's cameras and development. Are there any other public delegations? Any other public delegations? All right then. We will now move on to the next item of business. Unless anyone has any questions further? No? Minutes of the regular council meeting, April the 9th, 2014. Are there any errors or omissions? Yes, Councilor Donato,
Under protective services,
page what? Page 4 at the top, 4,
6
7,
of 7,
6 and 7. All right,
motion 285/140 moved by Councilor Mack, that council received the March 2014 from senior peace officer Alan Bloom. I'm assuming protective services report should be in there? Or,
Mr. Tomaco?
I think that the, Ken did not have a report, so protective services, Officer Allen's
Okay.
report will be seen to us.
So is the word in there
It's okay.
to be report?
It's okay.
Well, no, it says that council received the March 2014, what?
Senior Peace Officer Allen Bloom's report.
It doesn't say that. It
Bloom's,
says from,
okay, to put the word from.
report, and
Yeah, received March 2014 report from Senior Peace Officer Alan Bloom. Report for
I'll take out
information.
report there.
So, yeah. Put that after, put report after 2014. And omit it from after.
So do you get that one, Mr. Martinson?
I did.
Thank you. Do you have any other errors or omissions? Could I then have a motion to accept the amended minutes? Councilor Carrier has made that motion. All in favor? It's carried. Next item of business is the special meeting of council, 2014 final budget of April 10. Are there any errors and omissions to these sets of minutes? Councilor Danaka?
first page, workers' compensation board, I think it's just a spelling mistake, flags to be half max, not half max.
Yes. That would be page 1 of 4 on that, at the very bottom. Do you see it?
Yep.
Mr. Martinson? Okay. Are there any other errors or omissions? Could I have a motion then to accept this as amended? Councilor Panasic has made that motion. All in favor? It's carried. Next item of business is finance. Prairie and District Victims Assistance. That is a request. Could I have a motion then for this request? Councilor Carrier?
I make a motion that the council approve to donate 2 of our packages that we have, the towels and,
2 promotional packages?
yes.
All right, anything else? No? 2 promotional packages. Council approved the donation of 2 promotional packages for the Prairie District Victims Assistance. That administration trans, and that's it. So the rest of it comes out at this point. Discussion on this? Councilor Danaka?
What do we have to give in a promotional package? I'm just curious, because
Mr.
what I see it under the glass is not really what I would consider promotional.
Councilor Carrier?
I purchased one from the CRC auction, the radio auction. Comes with some towels, it comes with a license plate, memory stick. I believe there's a coffee mug in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a few mugs in this.
One towel, 2? 2 towels?
I think there was 2.
Do you have a value approximate that they pay?
I
Is there
can't
a
remember.
value that you attach to this?
We'll make sure it meets your, the right standard.
Approximately 30 to 50. I can't remember the exact figures.
Any other discussion on this?
Or is it gonna be transfers from advertising and promotions to grants?
No, they didn't do that.
Deleting that because there's no money. This is just strictly promotional package. So,
But if there was a money value, why would it move from promotional to grants?
No. What Councillor Carrier has just done is to substitute the recommendation for money for 2 promotional packages. And therefore, the other sentence becomes irrelevant.
Except for, even if we were giving them money for a golf tournament, it should be considered under promotional and in advertising, it shouldn't be struggling with, we're always moving things to grants. And this, whether we're giving them cash or whether we're just giving them promotional items, I would think that we would leave it under advertising and promotion. So I think maybe we just need to sort of clear up that definition, so, because we're always seeming to, yeah.
Councillor Carrier?
The reason I chose to go with the goodie bags instead of the cash donations, I was just thinking back to the fact that we asked everybody to have the grants in, the requests in. Instead of the cash, I figured we could at least give you the promotional bag without having to affect the budget or anything else like that.
Councillor Long, did you have anything? Okay. All right then, and no other things? All in favor then of this motion? This motion is carried. The next item of business is the disaster services bylaw. We have a motion then, please.
I think
Councillor
we
Donato,
to accept the,
introduce.
establishing the disaster service bylaw 052014.
Okay, so you're looking at that council introduce and give first reading to bylaw.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. This 23rd day law of April 2014. Any discussion on this introduction? Any questions? No questions? All in favor? It's carried. Second reading, Councillor Carrier.
Make a motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 05/2014, this 23rd day of April 2014.
Any discussion? All in favor? It's carried. The last action, or the next, Councillor Long?
I move that council upon unanimous consent give third and final reading for bylaw 05-2014, 23rd day of April 2014.
And?
And the council approve the addition of the position of Director of Disaster Services to the Town of High Prairie organizational chart.
Is there any discussion on this? Who does, since we don't have a copy of the organizational chart, where does this fall in there?
Then if I do that, I will separate the two motions into two because there's one bylaw and one is a resolution.
Yes.
It will be fire chief slash director of disaster services.
I see.
Now, the reason why we're doing this is,
Just a minute, can you hear?
yeah, the reason why we're doing this is that the bylaw gives council the authority to hire the fire chief, which is contrary to the process of the CEO hiring the fire chief. But then to ensure that that position is valid, you have to approve that is part of the organizational chart. So that will hire without your approval.
Yeah, but I think we've already given the approval to hire a fire chief, so isn't that by default enough to add it to the organizational chart? Do we have to, I mean, that just goes, in my mind, that's a default, it goes without
Yeah, no,
saying.
you're perfectly right, except for the fact that we're talking about the director of the disaster services position being added to the position of fire chief. Okay, that's the yes.
So the duties for the fire chief now fall under the director of disaster services, is that what
The
you're saying?
fire chief is now handling, is also the director of disaster services, which makes our emergencies disaster services more focused. I think it's a good arrangement.
So we don't have a director of disaster services anymore, you struck that out.
You don't-
You're taking
you're
that
not-
out of there.
Yeah, you're not appointing, council is not appointing the director of disaster services anymore. The CEO does that, but you are now approving that it's part of the organizational chart. Otherwise, you have a conflict
All right,
where council is now appointing him, and then it becomes a conflict because you're the CEO, then everybody else is appointed.
okay, so on the organization chart, position fire chief will be deleted, and you will rename it director of disaster
So it will be
services.
slash director of disaster services.
I see, all right.
So it's two motions, so I think what we're saying, just go with the first motion for the bylaw to make the change in the bylaw. And then we have a second motion.
Yes. Yeah. Go on, it's a resolution.
All right. So we will split that bylaw
Okay.
that Councillor Long has made. And we need to require unanimous consent for this, so all in favor? That's carried. And the next motion that Councillor Long made was to approve the addition of Director of Disaster Services / Fire Chief. Isn't that what you said?
The council approved the addition of the position of Director of Disaster Services to the Town of High Prairie organizational tracks.
But it's not Director of Disaster Services, it's Director of Disaster Services / Fire Chief.
But we already have Fire Chief on there.
Then
And
you're
it
adding
states-
another one.
And it states here in the RFD, on the first page, the organizational chart also needs to be modified to state fire chief / director of disaster
Okay,
services. That's right on the very first page.
Okay.
Instead of fire chief, volunteer. So it identifies that. So it's inherent in the motion.
Okay. Your motion is moved.
In the second part.
Okay, I disagree on that one. I would say that that is a separate position, the way it's worded.
I see what you're seeing. Yeah.
You want to say amend, that council approve the addition of the amendment?
So I think what the mayor's saying, Mr. Knopfler, is and that council approved the addition of the position of fire chief / director of disaster services to the town of High Prairie organizational chart. Did you get that right? You're the best. You're not even typing, you're just writing it all down.
All right, any other questions on this motion? All in favor? It's carried. Next item of business is tax incentives and assessment classes. I have a motion on this. Councillor Carrier?
I make a motion that council receive the Town of High Prairie Municipal Inspection Report recommendation number 54, which states that the town should conduct a study of all tax incentives and assessment classes to determine acceptable and fair mechanisms to attract development and fairly tax current property owners and make the necessary changes to current policies for information. First one. No, sorry, I meant the second one.
Oh, you want the second?
Yes, I do want the second one. Sorry, I apologize for that.
All right, so, Mr. Martinson, the motion is the second one. The second one. So it's the approval to hire or to conduct the study. All right, questions on this? Councillor Carrier, did you want to speak to this?
I just want to make that motion to ensure that everybody is getting taxed fairly and make sure it's all fair and just for the town.
Okay. Councillor Long, and then I'll go this way.
Okay.
I'll come back.
Going back to our first visit at the seniors conference, and I've had discussions with you about that as well, where they received virtually no services from the town except for water. They have no garbage pickup, no snow removal or anything else. And they're being taxed as if they were a home, a single dwelling home. There's some people in the seniors condo that are paying $3,000+ in taxes. So this hopefully will allow us to look at that, review it, and see if we come up with some sort of a remedy or a solution that might help them being on fixed incomes and give them a little more fair rate and a fair taxation assessment. I hope.
Councillor Donata?
To your knowledge, Kelly, has this ever been done?
No.
No, we've never had somebody look at the tax incentive or review the tax assessments or whatever, okay?
Comprehensively.
Do you have any idea what the cost would be?
government policy and as to how we come up with our own tax assessment, are we not, like, so this, I guess without a cost, I'm a little bit leery to just say, I watched the town spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on reports that just told us that we were doing everything okay, or we didn't make any changes with some of the recommendations, so I'm a little bit concerned with just saying yes. Like, I like the idea of getting the results if we don't have another equitable way of doing it, but without a cost right now attached to it, I'm a little bit leery about just saying, get another report and hire another consultant.
Councillor Panassa?
Yeah, I would agree. I'd like to, maybe see this come back once we sort of know a price tag on it. But I think at the same time, I think this is very important coming from the Jones Rood report. It is a recommendation. It must have been in there for a reason. There's got to be some rationale behind it. And I am very interested to see how we can attract some more businesses to town. If there's some tax incentives that would help bring businesses to town. Right now, we don't have businesses, and my way of looking at the world is how are we going to get new businesses to come into town? And I know tax incentives is one way of possibly doing it, where, if you've got two auctions of two towns where you're looking at a business, and one you're going to get a tax incentive and one you're not, this might be enough to bring them to our town. And right now, I think anything we can do to bring those new businesses in would be good. So I'd like to hear what other towns are doing and how we could do those kinds of incentives. And if it's commonly done, but that's my point on it.
Yes, Councillor Rose?
Is this really just asking us already to assess what we do for tax incentives? It's not bringing new ideas to the table. Is it not just, the recommendation is to look at what we do now? What sort of tax incentives I think the concern is the municipal government or the report, this report reflected what we were currently doing and the fact that they didn't like that we were giving any tax incentives or any concessions. So they want someone to come in and assess it and say that potentially that isn't good governing to give any incentive. Like, that was sort of what came down in the report, and I think that that's sort of what the recommendation was about. It wasn't to give us sort of support in that way.
Well, and I'd like to know if that's what's going on too. But in my mind, I think that's one of the few tools that we have as a council to attract more businesses. We don't have much that we can do to try and get a company to come into town, but that is one that we could use, and I think it could be used. Maybe not as long as some of the other ones that we've done in the past, but doing something like that. And I'd like to know if that's what other communities have done. So I'd like to know that out of the report.
And I agree that the cost is something that we have to know before we go forward. But rather than leaving it just to Mr. Powers, I think that we should make the direct administration to contact Northern Sunrise County, who is doing the assessment for 5 other municipalities surrounding them. So they would have a good overview of 5 other northern municipalities and ask them what other those municipalities are doing. Because Northern Sunrise is setting up assessment services for municipalities in Northern Alberta in order to get the expertise and keep them busy themselves. They're busy. They are now going out and looking for customers to keep their assessment department busy. So rather than, we should be looking at their services and seeing whether or not we can use them or not. Because here's an outfit in northwestern Alberta that could certainly give us the experience and give us the experience of what's happening in their areas.
And find out quick enough and easy enough to find out how much that might cost, since they've done it in other communities already. We've got a ballpark figure of what the dollar assessment
And what they can do for us.
And maybe direct them not to just follow the recommendation, which is to study our tax incentives, but potentially include the opportunity to look at what tax incentives may be out there and what other communities are doing, just to make sure that we actually ask for the right information for good and good report.
And BMD is bringing them in to do a presentation to them.
That's the June 11th.
Mackenzie Municipal Services Agency is doing a presentation at BMD on June 11th. So if they are there on June 11th, our council meeting is at 7 o'clock. Perhaps we could get them to come and do a presentation at our council meeting also. So I think that might help us move along a little bit along this way. Yes, Councillor Long?
So should we go on with Councillor Carrier's motion? Should we add as a friendly amendment to that to direct our CAO to contact Northern?
This motion talks, says council directs the administration to hire a consultant to undertake a comprehensive study, and I don't think we're ready for that yet. Yes, Councillor Carey.
I'd be willing to do a friendly amendment if someone wants to just scratch that last line and probably like to word the last sentence to bring back multiple cost estimates from multiple agencies.
And invite Mackenzie to come and do a presentation to council.
So then I would like to make friendly amendment to that motion if it's acceptable to Councillor Carrier to scratch out the hired consultant and to invite Mackenzie and Associates to our June 11th meeting and see if that's amenable to them.
Just maybe to add on to that, is if we didn't want to lose perhaps talking to others, like, I don't want to commit to just Mackenzie, but yeah, that would be the only other.
But I think in fairness, when administration is directed to investigate the cost of the consultants, that you told us that you are interested in having Mackenzie, that can you let's leave that to us to contact others as well. That is not just you prescribing one person or one consultant to the administration.
So administration two, okay.
To investigate.
To investigate consulting firms that may be able to help us in this decision.
And
And the cost.
no, but and request Mackenzie to come and do a presentation.
I still think it wouldn't hurt to have Mackenzie come.
Yeah.
We're gonna be here. Can't hurt. Well, it doesn't think it's possible.
So there is the amendment.
Brian's looking.
So take out the last line
Okay.
and add in that council directs administration to investigate consultants, possible consultants
To perform this report and to also invite Mackenzie to our June 11th meeting.
Say it again, Michael. Say it again.
To investigate
Consultants.
Possible consultants.
possible consultants to help us with this direction and to invite Mackenzie to
Mackenzie Municipal Services Agency to our June 11th meeting.
Is that acceptable to you? Boy, you just screwed up, you said no.
I would imagine that Mackenzie would probably getting in touch with us anyways, because there's no way they're gonna come down here knowing that we're available to. And they'll probably want to.
Are they assessors or consultants?
They're assessors. They have
So
set up
they're
their
not
own
really
assessment department.
Consultants, like they wouldn't be the company we hired.
Yes,
To
yes.
reassess the area, but not to consult on initiatives.
You can ask them at the presentation.
I trust our CEO has heard us loud and clear and we can carry on.
Any other questions on this? You want to read the motion back?
No.
Yes.
I don't blame you.
All right.
Friendly amendment.
I did.
Carried.
That was the friendly amendment, or we got to vote on the motion?
Oh, right, that was the amendment. Okay, so now the motion that Councillor Carrier has made with the amendment would be all of the very first part of the motion.
Yep.
And then what was the amendment that Councillor Long put forward?
Council direct administration.
Can you read that part?
Council to direct administration to investigate the possible consultants and to help in developing
Strategy,
strategies for tax incentives
yes.
and to invite the McKenzie. Is it the planning commission or is that?
They're Mackenzie Municipal Services Agency. To the June 11th meeting. That's your full motion.
It's not so easy when the motions change, is it?
Vern's just giggling over there.
Right away, he's got
I'm just making sure he doesn't mess up.
All in favor? That's carried. Next item of business is Buchanan Lumber and West Fraser. Do we have a motion on this?
I'll make the motion
Councillor Danaka?
that
Any
council approve a large advertisement to be placed in local paper on the town's website. Buchanan Lumber on behalf of the town of Prairie and a welcome calling to West Fraser by the town.
So I'm reading that, it says to be placed in the local paper on the town's website.
And
Is it or and, or what is it?
I'm assuming it should be and
And.
on the town's website.
Discussion? Councillor Danaka?
And I just, there's a small typo there in the background. It should say Gordon Greg, not Glenn.
oh,
No, that one's not mine, that's, no, yeah, because it's
Pardon?
West Fraser. Is Fraser with an S?
No, it's an S.
It's an
it's
S.
an S.
And so there's a spelling mistake on that last line then? So, Councillor Long?
I had the privilege of attending the intermunicipal meeting yesterday with my fellow councilors and mayor. And one of the things that was discussed is the MD would like to be a part of that advertisement, making it a full colored page. And as well, I had brought up the suggestion of maybe offering Mr. Buchanan and Mr. Greg Buchanan the keys to the town. Now the MD doesn't necessarily have that sort of a process, but they would like to be a part of that, so we could offer them the keys to the town and to the municipal district.
I believe it was when Buchanan celebrated their 50th, and I think Diana Oliver was the mayor at the time. He did get a key to the town at that time, so that might be a little bit of duplication.
Okay, so this is dealing just with an advertisement at this point. And I think we have another agenda item. So, is there any other discussions regarding the advertisement? Councillor Carrier?
Just as a friendly amendment, if we can, just to see if the MD would like to be a part of this advertisement.
So your amendment then would be?
To include the MD in this advertisement, if they so choose.
And direct administration to request the MD to approach the MD for participation if desired. Okay. So say in participation of this acknowledgement, if desired,
You don't want to use.
of this advertisement. Cost or participation of the appreciation if desired. All right, I'm gonna get you to read this back, so you better,
Okay, say it one more time.
um,
And to direct administration to
To-
contact the MD of Big Lakes to
to,
see if they wish to acknowledge.
wish to participate in this appreciation gesture. If desired.
So the amendment was, and direct administration to contact the MD of Big Lakes to see if they wish to participate in this appreciation gesture.
Okay? Okay, all in favor of the amendment? That's carried. And now the original motion will be what is written there, plus the amendment that we just passed. Any other questions? All in favor? It's carried. All right. So the next item of business is Buchanan Appreciation number 4. It's on the blue page, and it is 5B4. And it says Gordon Buchanan Ceremony. Is that the one? It's spelled wrong. All right. Spelled again. Could I have a motion then?
I'll make the motion that council approve recognition for wall fame and the dinner ceremony for and having the charity golf tournament on August 21st, if approved, in Gordon Buchanan's name, thanking him and his family for their extensive contribution to the town of Prairie.
That would be, yeah, that also makes sense.
Well, we're already on this. So. She could put them together in discussion. All right. Keeping in mind that there is a golf tournament possibly in August that is being organized.
But it is part of the motion when we're talking about this golf tournament, right? So it's all combined, we're almost dealing with both of them at the same
Yes.
time.
I wonder if we just read the background about the tournament, so you know what.
And, all right, so the next one is the charity golf tournament, and it's another blue sheet of paper, and it talks about, the intermunicipal committee. That would be that chamber committee?
No, yesterday's meeting. Intermunicipal negotiating.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that we were the organizers of that.
We are co-hosts.
Oh, okay. Having a charity golf tournament on August the 21st, 2014, to raise money for the High Prairie Hospital helipad. To proceed with the charity, the motion was made that a recommendation be forwarded to each council to proceed with the charity golf tournament. Okay, so there was a recommendation to discuss having a charity golf tournament. If they go ahead with that, now go back to Buchanan. One of the discussions on this charity golf tournament was that the Buchanan family be honored as a, how did you word that,
Yeah, like,
in honor of, no,
yeah, tribute tournament.
a tribute tournament, and that would be the,
With the proceeds going towards the helipad.
yes.
So we're killing two birds with one stone, the way I see it. I think that's great.
We just love the opportunity and the volunteer sort of hours that we're required to put on the tournament, as well as a fundraiser or and whether we should do two separate events or whether there's any merit in putting them in one, and maybe there's a little bit of honor in being part of something that is still raising money and funds for the community.
So this item is, yes, we do. We approve the recognition to the Wall of Fame. And I would have to go look at that Wall of Fame. I think Buchanan was on there.
Where is the one? That's just.
That's the one in front of the museum with all those names there.
Well, it's got its name on the arena, it's probably on there too. And he's got a key to the town, so yeah, it wouldn't be surprising that he's on there. But if he's not, we could add him. If he's not
And
already.
further to this, that's just a discussion with the MD who has their Wall of Fame, and they talked about honor and stuff like that.
Let's make a motion for the end.
We already have one. Yeah, I'm sure it's David Walker. Okay, so this is the most council approved recognition to the Wall of Fame and a dinner ceremony and having the charity golf tournament. So this on August 21st. Thanking him and his family for their extensive contribution to the town of High Prairie. It's if we go ahead with the golf tournament, then therefore this motion would then come into play. If we didn't go ahead with the golf tournament, this motion would not come into play.
Or we'd have a
I think that's how you would read it.
Madam Mayor, we just got the list of who's on there, and Gordon Buchanan is already on the monument.
So, that's all. So now we're down to the dinner. Can we do I'll take that.
Well, the dinner ceremony or the charity golf tournament, I think that would be the motion. Right?
Did they have an idea of what they meant by the
Okay.
and a dinner and having a charity golf tournament, like
There was really no discussion on what type of a dinner it was, like trying to focus on.
so the dinner, I'm just trying to, the way I'm reading this, and a dinner ceremony so I'm reading it as two separate things. Having a dinner and then, or having a golf tournament. But to me, they're still two separate and not at the same time is what I'm getting at.
Councillor Carrier?
There was discussions there, they wanted to do the golf tournament, and because of the sale, they were just kind of, to me personally, it felt like they were just gonna slough this in with the golf tournament, so we didn't have to do anything. Too hard to do a dance or a dinner or organize and stuff. So I think that what we're doing, my own personal opinion, is we're kind of already doing this golf tournament thing, so we're just gonna kind of include the Gordon Buchanan stuff in there, just, as you said, to kill two birds with one stone. And I think we're doing a disservice to one of the major players of this town if we just kind of throw him in with something that we're already planning, so.
Councillor Panasic?
I don't see it that way at all. I see it as, it's a tournament to honor Gordon Buchanan, but at the same time, the proceeds, which I'm sure he would be quite happy to know, would be going towards the helipad. And I think that's something that he would like to know is going on, and he's very philanthropic that way in donating and stuff. So I think he would be probably happier knowing that they were having an event for him with the proceeds going to a cause like that he would certainly back it. That's
Councillor Rose?
The other thing too, and if you haven't been part of a lot of golf tournaments, the end of the evening is a supper, and then usually there is recognition, there's speeches, there's that opportunity to honor him, and then there is usually with tournaments like that, you'll pull in industry will probably try to be, in this case, because we're raising money for the helipad, as well as honoring Gordon, there's the opportunity to invite dignitaries, government officials, and you may be more successful in getting them into the room for this event than to bring them in for two separate ones. I don't know, it was just that you do have that opportunity to still, it's still gonna be a dinner. It's just a dinner at the golf club versus a dinner at a hall in town.
Councillor Tanaka?
I understand what you're saying, but I'm looking at that in a limited capacity in the sense that there may be people who would love to come out to honor Gordon as members of the community, but don't participate in a golf tournament. If you're talking dignitaries and other people, to me, I'm looking at a large function, and I don't know if that's something that can be accommodated at the golf course.
Councillor Carrier?
And just further to that, this golf tournament was actually brought up before even the sale of Buchanan's. And so we were planning this golf tournament anyways, and now because of the sale, it seems like we're just gonna throw that in there just because, you know, I honestly think that we're doing a disservice to the main person of our town that's kept this town going. That mill could have been shut down numerous times. And he sacrificed a lot just to keep people employed.
Certainly wasn't meant to be a disservice. It was to, you know, to add to the honor of being part of a fundraiser that will continue a legacy in the area. So, you know, that certainly was not at all to, the offer or the suggestion wasn't to make a disservice. It was only to enhance, you know, to enhance an event.
Councillor Long?
Councillor Carrier brought up a good idea at the MD office. And while I agree with Councillor Rose and Panasic, yes, this was already in play, but the legacy that's going to come from this will save lives and will be there as long as the hospital is there, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. So I think that the intent was very respectful. But you brought up a point after the meeting that the Buchanan, now West Fraser, group has a social fund. And it would be a great idea to get them involved as well so that we can, it's just a matter of, I'm sure they would be honored to create a function, a dance, a celebration of Gordon, of Greg, of the Buchanan family. And so maybe that's something that we can help them with somehow. I don't know how the town council can do that, but I'll sell tickets. And so if there's something that we can do to help the employees of that group make this come to fruition, maybe we can offer up the Buchanan Center for free and get that in place so that we can have the kind of celebration that clearly everybody seems to know that people would like to do it and isn't so restricted as the golf tournament, because a lot of people don't golf. I don't.
Councillor Carrier?
I have no problem with adding Buchanan's to the golf tournament, and I agree with all that, but I think we should also be doing something else. So that, you know, like it's been made, like, I wouldn't go to the golf course, but I would like to do something, because it's just not something I do is golf, so. If there was something else in town, like a supper, or dance, or something like that, I mean, man, oh man, you can get a lot of people.
Well,
Councillor
and I think
Panasic?
that was Donna's point, that we might have much more interested in doing the other stuff, or the meal and the dinner afterwards. So I see that maybe the dinner isn't necessarily at the golf course afterwards, but it could be at the Gordon Buchanan Center, a much bigger venue, if there's that much more interest in it. I think that's great. We're doing both, you know, and it's all in his name, and proceeds are gonna be contributed towards his legacy, and I think it's a great idea.
So we're still looking at August the 21st, and I know that was a concern that you were saying, you know, you would have liked it sooner. I'm not sure sooner would that be a concern of yours also? Or is August the 21st a good time?
I don't know,
So we have a motion here, basically to continue on with the charity golf tournament, if approved, in Gordon Buchanan's name, thanking him and his family for their extensive contribution to the town of High Prairie. So that this will then, if you pass this, this will be the continuation of just the dinner. Wall of Fame is out, he's on it, key to the town is out, he's already received it, so it's only the dinner ceremony and the golf tournament. Councillor Panasic?
I got one thing, just like, I think this is a great idea, but I have one question when we turn around and say, we have to organize this. And I know that the MD is on board too, but we can't, are we saying to Kelly that he has to organize this dinner and this golf tournament and get it going? Because otherwise, like, I like the idea, but who are we directing to do this? That's my question. Who's going to be setting this up?
Councillor Long?
I believe that the intent was the MD is setting this up, and they're asking for our help. But they seem to have things already in motion that they can make this happen. So things like selling the tickets, sitting on the third hole where the car might be, for the hole-in-one shot, helping those types of things, volunteering their time to help this come to fruition. I think that's what they're looking for from us. Not to necessarily make this happen, but if we can help them by providing and making the Buchanan Center available, and if we can help them in any other way, I think that's a great thing. But we're not expecting the CAO to get up there.
Well, it's a big project.
Huge. I've put one together in your heart. So
The CEO of the MD has done 4 or 5 of them, so apparently he has a lot of expertise on it.
Yeah, and I've helped contribute at the college. We do the golf tournaments there too, and I know it's a lot of work to get those involved in. And who is going to be doing it? Like, we need somebody's going to be in charge.
Councillor
Yeah,
Rose?
Debbie put up her hand. I think she's got experience doing this from before too.
Yeah, no, I do have some from when I was working at Grand Prairie College, but we did talk at the MD about them making, like, I mean, all they've got right now booked is the time, the day. And from there, they'll call meetings, they're having an internal meeting, and then they're gonna ask for another meeting and have a committee struck to organize the tournament. And then maybe what we can do is make it the supper committee that handles the you know, sort of the recognition part of that, and we can ensure and maybe work more closely with even the social club at West Fraser to see what sort of involvement that they would like, and they will probably be able to give us a sense of, you know, people will want to come and sort of some participation, because then we can see whether or not the golf club would be the venue, or whether it would be something like the Gordon Buchanan Center in town. I mean, the other alternative at the golf club, and we've seen this happen at like lakeside events at Shaw's Point and stuff, they bring in great big tents, and they do still serve and have tables, and, you know, so you expand your golf club and turn it into still a nice big, you know, tented area outside on the golf course, which could still house a lot more people and have a lot more people involved in the evening part than potentially the day part, because you're right, only so many people are going to be wanting to be part of the golf tournament. But anyway, yeah, no, it's a couple of committees that have to be struck in order to get this under control.
So this is August 21st, and I'm just wondering if it's conflicting with already some stuff that's going on. Councillor Carrier?
Just trying to help council here, maybe move forward, we bring back the Buchanan ceremony we'll just maybe accept this part of it as just information for now and bring back something at the next meeting. And I'd be more than happy to work up an RFP for a ceremony
For a
itself,
ceremony that'll take place.
and then we can just deal with the golf tournament on its own, if that would help.
So actually, this motion can stand. It talks about the August 21st date.
August 21st is a Thursday.
Yes, and so this motion that we've got is that we approve recognition and through a dinner ceremony and or having the charity golf tournament on August 21st, 2014. If approved in Gordon Buchanan's name, thanking him and his family for extensive contribution to the town of High Prairie. So this one would be on August 21st due. Now, what you're thinking of is something sooner, entirely different, and you could bring back an RFP at the next. Okay? So, this one is the August 21st, and it is a motion to recognize the Buchanan family at a golf function. So, yes, Mr. Tomaco?
Just not to confuse the dinner, are you having two dinners, two separate dinners?
At this
Because
point, it would be the golf club dinner
the So you're talking about the charity golf tournament,
with a dinner.
it's always with the dinner anyways, you
Yes.
don't have to use the word dinner, because otherwise.
Sometimes they don't. Normally. Sometimes they don't. So I think, having dinner in there, why, that's not confusing. It's itemizing, it is a dinner and a charity golf tournament with a dinner.
I'm comfortable with it. And then you have another dinner.
Possibly. We will wait and see what, Councilor Carrier wishes to put forward. But this is scheduled for August 21st. That's all, at this point, that's all this council really needs to know is that we're moving forward for charity golf tournament, August the 21st. All in favor then? That's carried. So you have stricken from that motion, Wall of Bay, keep it down. Okay, now the next item is the charity golf tournament. And is that a redundant motion?
With this passed, yes.
So this one is redundant now.
Yes.
I make a motion that we receive this for information.
Okay? So the next one is discussion on the charity golf tournament for information. All in favor? It's carried. And the next one is another blue sheet, and it is 5B6, Resource Road. Motion, please. Councilor Canasi?
I move that, as recommended.
So that whole motion, yes, I agree with it. We all know that it's regarding the resource road. This came up at the intergovernmental negotiating committee meeting, and it was in order to move the resource road repairs forward, we're putting an option forward to Minister Drysdale, to possibly see what the response would be if they would come with a third funding. Would perhaps we could see our way fit somehow or other to come up with a third, and the MD then would contribute 1/3. So it's exploring options. That's all it's doing. It's not time missing. So there's the motion. Are there any questions further on? No? All in favor then? That's carried. There was no discussion for you people. You were okay with that? Okay. Next order of business is the Public Works report. Come forward. Yes, Councilor Ariel.
Just to make motion, we accept it for information so we can just discuss it.
Okay, motion is to accept the information. And now we can discuss it. Can you come forward?
Get that game look.
You're in the headlight look? All right. Any highlights out of your report that you'd like to bring forward to us?
Basically, Madam Chair, I just wanted to bring forward that we are preparing to pump water out of the river as soon as the ice flows go through, the pump is ready to go in, so that we can top off the reservoir. Street sweeping is, we're trying to get at it, but as you can see, it's not cooperating all that well with us.
I thought you were washing the streets.
Well, we're trying to. And basically, the rest of the report is self-explanatory, and if there's any questions.
I'm just wondering, how long does it take to go around the town with the street sweeper?
It'll probably take about two weeks to do the whole entire.
To do it town once, so
Once, yeah, and then we will go back and revisit again.
how often do you usually do that?
Usually
Through the town?
Usually once every 2 months, depending on the weather, and all depends on how much mud is tracked in from the surrounding communities and the resource sector of our economy.
Where would you dump the sweepings this year?
We're going to be dumping them behind the shop.
It's gotta be a lot of, that you collect, so you fill that sweeper up and then you run that.
What we're going to be doing this year is having a tandem truck sitting in this specific area, and then when that truck's full, we'll take it, dump it, and then continue on.
That's a lot of stuff you can pick up. I swept off my driveway a little bit, filled up a garbage can, and it was like, holy, that's heavy and a lot.
There's usually a couple hundred yards of material coming off of the streets in the spring.
Mr. Martinson?
There is a call for the street sweeping dirt, and Sunstone Energy have a big pothole in their yard out there. So I've directed them, when they do the main road, to make sure they dump there, and they're very happy to receive it. Then it saves us hauling it away later on, so.
Where is that?
The old Esso.
Yes,
The old Esso property.
okay, well, that does get rid of some of it, I guess.
It compacts very well because it's basically sand, right? In winter.
Any other questions regarding the report? Mrs. Commissar and the CN Mural project, how is that going? Yes, Mr. Martin.
I've been in contact actually today. I was supposed to have a meeting with Brian Droulet with CM, and I was supposed to meet with him at 10 o'clock this morning. I went to the site and he didn't show up. About 10 after 10, I phoned him, and he was on the railroad tracks going east of Vanilda. They were checking for high flow. So he couldn't make the meeting. So he asked me if there was anything that we could discuss over the phone. So we discussed the site, and I told him that we needed a lease agreement through CN. So he told me to recontact this Karen Jensen, who's been in contact with us. So I phoned her today, and I got no answer. I left a voice message for her to send a lease agreement to the town of High Prairie, to our fax, and I also contacted Mrs. Commissar then and asked her if she had sent the revised drawing of the size of the site and the mural that she wanted, and she said she had, so I'm just trying to keep everybody in the loop sort of thing. So I'm just waiting for a reply, and then when we get it done, we'll get the lease signed, and I'm gonna ask them to see if they wanna participate in the cost also of this thing, so.
If you need a letter from the town, mayor's signature,
Okay.
make a note of it, and I'll make sure that we get one out. What else?
Question over there.
Councillor Donaga.
Yes.
You had sent us an email regarding the lease agreement with CN. Correct?
Yes, yes.
And they want us to have liability insurance of $5 million for, let's say, 5 years. Or they won't charge us rent for 5 years. I'm kind of
They're,
confused.
As Mr. Tomato has explained to me, the reason it isn't on the agenda is because he wants a copy of the lease agreement so that we can see the lease agreement and then discuss whether we wish to enter into it.
Okay,
And they didn't get the lease agreement, so therefore it's not on the agenda.
okay.
But that is, and what they're looking for is liability insurance, mostly. Well, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Not mostly, that is what they're looking for. So if we carry the liability insurance, apparently this seems to be no problem.
Yeah.
It's moving along. I'm not sure if it's moving along fast enough for Mrs. Commissar and her art.
I think it is. She's, seems like she's okay now with it, so.
She settled down her ship. Okay. Councillor Long?
Just looking in the report, is everybody done with the mural? I don't want to change subjects. The repaired catch basin by Smitty's. Now, I know it goes out onto the highway, so therefore that's part of the transportation's responsibility, but that's an awful exit out of that parking lot, and you can't enter it at all. But is there any way that we can look at widening?
That there is a transportation.
It's strictly theirs, eh? There's no way we could entertain, it would be up to Smitty's to talk to them about
And
that?
they have been advised to talk with transportation, and I think they've put a request into transportation to have that widened. There is another issue there that they would have to get approval from Super A because the border of the property is right on the east side of the existing approach. So there's various different things that the owners of cities would have to come up with prior to widening that approach.
Okay.
So when the cement was poured, it's back to the original size? It looks bigger.
The grate is slightly bigger.
No, it's all the same size.
It's
But
all
it's-
the same.
Yeah.
So we are going to have that problem again then, won't we?
No.
With the traffic running over? Isn't that what
No,
caused
no,
that to break
no.
down?
Water getting in underneath the grate is what washed away underneath, and then the traffic pushed it down. It wasn't because of the weight of the traffic that has held up for quite a few years prior to it actually starting to wash underneath on the catch, between the actual steel grate catch basin and the concrete below.
Okay. Did you talk to the owners? Are they satisfied then with what we've done so far with it?
We haven't, we just finished there yesterday. We haven't talked to anybody yet. In fact, they just poured.
Mr. Martinson?
I'd give him, Greg grabs that, name and number of the development officer with Alberta Transportation and Peace River, her name and number, so.
All right.
That's not called it, that's the message for Greg as well.
Councillor Carrier?
I haven't seen it on the report, just was wanting an update on the old daycare center. I see it's still signing, wasn't East Prairie supposed to?
I'll direct that to Brian. He's been in discussions.
They backed out of it, and now we gotta wait for our old landfill site to dry up before we can knock it down. So it's still, I guess they didn't wanna take the time to rip it apart and salvage whatever they could, so.
I think there was somebody else interested in that, Brian, too.
Crosby Rich does, but he wants this logs, this when we take it apart, so. If we can help him out, we will.
Probably a lot of people want it once it's apart.
If they're there when we take it, then
Can we not use it ourselves once we take it apart for perhaps a camp kitchen at J.C. Park? Councillor Long?
We do need a new log up front. That wonderfully beautiful, horrific pink log that's out there now needs to be replaced anyways, it's starting to rot.
these
So,
ones are only like,
okay, well, maybe we can find a log.
Oh, that's crazy.
We were gonna.
Get on that.
Mr. Walker?
We were gonna discuss it with Glenn Couch, because he refurbished, it was Murray Couch that built it in the first place, and then Glenn refurbished it about 10 years ago, and see if he's interested in possibly doing another one.
I also see that you're starting work on Moosty's building and doing a little bit here and there. What's happening, now I'm changing the subject, but it is a town building sort of. What's happening with all this brickwork on this planter out here that's all falling apart? Have you noticed all the bricks are now laying around and
there are no bricklayers in High Prairie.
so what is?
What we did is our public works staff actually repaired them last time. So when we get caught up here, we'll be doing this, probably the same thing. We'll be doing, having our own staff repair them.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact, but the problem with bricklaying is it's a trade, and the water is probably, you have to be a bricklayer in order to make sure you get the drainage right so that it doesn't keep falling apart. I'm not sure. The capacity of the crew, is it?
We'll certainly look into it and find out if that, if we can do it ourselves and do it properly this time, or whether we need to bring somebody in.
Because I would hate to see that planter just disintegrate, and especially at the bottom. I mean, that's where all the water is coming down, and if you get it, if it's gonna break apart, it will.
And we may be bringing in an experienced person anyway, because we have some issues with our reservoir building where water got into some of the brick and kind of exploded a little bit, so we will be bringing in an experienced person anyway.
Good. All right. Is there any other public works, Councillor Rose?
I'm just gonna ask, is Doug Ferguson not Jeremy?
There's no more.
Okay. Do we have a lot of service requests from outside, from residents of the town for paving or anything like that?
We have quite a few. A lot of service requests are line locates for companies coming to do construction or homeowners building fences. There's some people have in the past have brought in requests for paving their driveways, turning off water to different buildings. That's where the customer service requests come in.
So the paving of the driveway, I think, is something, this has been an issue that was brought to my attention a couple of times, as in, why are we paving driveways when we could be using, those people could be out throwing potholes?
Back in,
I know, but are we continuing with that policy that we will do driveways?
in discussions with Brian, that's going to be one of the last things that we do, is paving driveways. I know it generates revenue for the town, but I think our crews are more suited to look after their own interests rather than private industry. Part of the reason why we got into it is in 2010 with former CAO Chris Parker. He wanted us to find ways of generating revenue, and that was one of the ideas that did come up.
All right. Any other questions regarding public works? So we have a motion to receive for information. All in favor? Thank you for your time, Mr. Washington. And now we're going to stage for the next one, right?
Yeah.
And the next one is Kitchen Week. I thought it was the tender, but it isn't. It's Kitchen Week. Okay. Do we have a motion then? Councillor Long?
That council received Pitchin Week being held on May 5th, 11th, 2014 for information and direct administration to advertise for Pitchin Week, aka IKEA High Prairie.
Mr. Walker?
As part of Kitchen Week this year, we're going to be doing things slightly different than we have in the past, because we've hauled a lot of refuse that people from the MD have brought in and put into the dumpsters. So this year we're getting some temporary fencing put around the dumpsters, and we're going to man them. They'll be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we'll advertise in the ad that you need to have proof of residency in order to access the dumpsters. That is our plan, to try and control some of the excess.
Weekends?
Yes.
Councillor Panasic?
Is that a big issue? Because I know it's going to take a lot of time and effort to man that, and a big cost. And I know sitting on the waste committee with Brian there, the thinking from their side is, we have town people going out and dumping at the collection sites, whether it be at Anilda or Banana Belt or wherever, right? There people take their garbage there, and their thinking is it sort of evens out at the end of the day. So I'm just wondering what the rationale is for that additional cost.
I know we haul a lot, and we've seen a lot of people bring in big items that they've left there when there is the availability to take those items such as washers and dryers and that to regional landfill. But the reason they wait is because they know the town is going to be doing this, and they bring them here. A lot of those, that's going to the, and if it's town residents going to the dumpsters out there, it's usually household garbage, it's not the big items that are brought in. We want to try something different this year, just to try and cut down on our costs.
Do you have an idea how much our cost was last time?
What did we haul out? 45 loads or something?
I've got it right.
Yeah, we have it broke down, but it's
Over
probably around,
20,000, wasn't it?
yes, it's roughly right around $20,000 for that week. And we're there, you've seen it on the weekends, what it is, and the guys are out on the weekends cleaning it up, and it's horrendous.
I think it's a great idea to fence it and trying to keep some of the people out and stuff like that, but I just know that we're dumping garbage there, our town people, and so I know that they actually have video cameras out at those collection sites, and they're not giving out tickets for our people just because they say it sort of evens out a little bit, so that's been their thinking in the past,
And in rebuttal to that is I know people come and use the dumpsters for businesses around town from the MD. And I've seen it myself where they throw their household garbage in the arena or.
and that's
in the back of
a
the town
different
office.
issue though too. I think, using a company's dumpster that they're paying to empty is not right, absolutely.
Mr. Martinson?
What was frustrating on our part by being for the pitching week is knowing that some of the MD residents have driven right past transfer sites, to bring their garbage in here to dump it off on the ground in here, where then we have to pick it up. So,
Is that because the wash machines, there's a levy against them?
They charge to dispose of them at the landfill, yes.
And the computers, and I see a lot of monitors and that, is there a charge on that too?
Yeah, any electronic stuff out there, there's a charge for separate items, and then it's by the ton as you go in, or by the pickup load, I think it is at the regional landfill.
So there would be there's a cost.
Well, and that's, I'm sort of thinking that if there is a cost to those, and if we're gonna man it, maybe we charge a little bit for those items that would normally be a cost. So even whether you're from the town or from the MD, you can drop it off here as opposed to driving out to the transfer station, but you gotta pay that cost. So if it's, I don't know what they charge, but if it's $5 for a washing machine and a dryer, they have to pay that. If we've got somebody there, then they can still use the convenience of it, but it's not costing us as much money to do that.
In all due respect, Councillor Knauss, I just like to try it this way for this year, just to see how it goes. If we don't notice a huge difference, then by all means we can entertain the fact of going back to it.
I think it's actually something that has to be looked at, because every year it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the 1 year, and I was thinking 1 year that it actually wrecked the pavement in front of the Sports Palace, but apparently I was told, no, that was construction stuff from the, but when they dragged those big bins, those 20-foot.
It did, a lot of the pavement did get punched out with the big beams and stuff that was moved in for the construction of Gordon Buchanan Center. It didn't help after the fact that the damage was already done prior to that.
Councillor Donata?
I would like to say regarding this pitching week, I've had people ask me when it's happening. That they're already planning for it. And I like the idea that you're going to try something different, because I believe last year I was totally amazed and appalled at the same time as to how much garbage and, I guess, quote unquote, junk was at the end closest to the museum. Like it was at least 10 feet high and the dumpster was full. And a lot of that, again, like you said, was household garbage bags and stuff, so, I mean, I like the idea that you want to try something different. Hopefully that will.
Well, and just try to keep some control and some
Yeah.
organization there.
Are we communicating with the citizens that this is what we're trying to do?
We will be in the advertisement on the website once we,
Maybe the local newspaper could do a story also. Be nice. Counselor Long?
Just in regards to control, I was pulling on the dresser out of the back of my truck and had two people fighting, literally fighting, so they could have control of that dresser when it came off the tailgate. Control would be a wonderful thing.
So what will you do about the people that want to peruse the used items? Are you letting them go through?
within reason. We're not gonna let them jump into a dumpster like happened last year when the truck was trying to pull away. There was somebody inside the dumpster throwing out garbage bags onto the ground while they dug through everything that was in there. And this is part of the safety issue too.
Okay, when you talk about canisters, what are you talking about? Monitor the garbage canisters. Is that the
That's the
bins?
big bins, yeah.
Oh, not canisters. Counselor Passick?
I'm just wondering, you're just gonna be manning it during the day,
8 to 8.
8 to 8?
And then the video cameras at the Sports Palace that monitor the parking lot will,
Is there, on the fencing that you're putting up, is there gonna be,
well, it's a deterrent. It's not like they can't break in and do it because it's just interlocked, right?
okay, so it'll be shut down so
Yeah.
people get the idea that come back
It's
at
closed, come back at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, with a little sign there to keep the honest people from doing it.
Well, and then it is an offense to just drop your garbage outside, right?
Yeah.
For littering purposes.
Oh, yes. Oh, we could get money
Do you do things with, like paints, used paints? and
There's a
like that?
toxic roundup that comes in usually the first week of June.
Oh, it's
And it sets up in the Sports Palace parking lot so that people are allowed to bring their paint in.
Okay. Any other questions? I think we pretty well exhausted or talked about all the different
We're
things.
trying something new to try to.
I think it's a good idea. I think it was a concern last year about the amount of garbage picking that was going on and the danger. Because it was unsightly and it was falling down and this way we'll try a little bit further. So we have a motion. Who made the motion?
Councillor Long.
To receive it for information and direct administration to advertise for Kitchen Week. All in favor? All right, and are we doing anything as a council for Kitchen Week?
Normally we wait till after Kitchen Week and then we go around and what we do is we'll organize something where the crew don't insert time and we'll let council know at that point that we go out and break the town up into 4 quadrants and pick back the alleys and streets and garbage and litter. It's just a basic volunteer thing by the staff. Anybody else wants to get involved.
All right, thank you. And I think you're staying for the next item, which is the hospital road. I believe she. High Prairie Hospital Access Road Project, Sewer and Water. And could I have a motion? Councillor Long. You'll go with the approval?
Yes, absolutely. The council approved another $225,252 to the capital budget for the hospital access road, sewer, and water project. The amount of $418,250 inclusive of engineering and contingencies.
All right, questions on this? Councillor Long.
I've had several, not 1 or 2, but 5 or 6, 7 people now, all farmers, asking about what kind of curbs are we going to be putting on that road? Are they going to be rounded or are they going to be sharp curbs?
They're going to be 90-degree curves, sharp curves.
Is there any way that we can create a rounded curb? And the reason I ask, their concern is getting their equipment into town to the John Deere, getting the combines and whatever in. It's so wide that when they they have those sharp curves, they run the risk of, and have in the past, end up catching the curbs with their tires or equipment. So if it's a rounded curve, then it's a little more forgiving for their equipment.
I can answer that one. When Vern wasn't here on the one Friday, I went to a meeting at the MD office with AMAC and the MD of Big Lakes. And what they decided, we went out and we measured it because they were gonna put in ditches. That's what their first initial road design was for ditches. And then they realized that they couldn't have ditches with the widening of the road that they wanted. So then they decided if they put curb and gutter in, they could even go wider. So they've got a fairly substantial width of the road now. And it is wider than the one going in front of Monahan Ford, Prairie River Gas, that way. It is a wider road than that by, I think, 3 meters.
Okay.
So that's basically another 10 feet, so.
But even
So they designed it as wide as they could possibly hit it, so.
And there's no way though that even with that design and the width, that there's no way that they could go with a rounded curve versus a 90-degree?
They could go with a rounded curve, but for settings like that, then you would get the tractors driving over onto the boulevard, because it is still in a boulevard state. And for the size of the tractors and
you think it'll break down?
calm down, it's gonna rut up the boulevards and it's gonna make a mess out there, was my thinking, so. I think with the straight wall curb, that will keep them within the roadway.
Mr. Walker?
That, and it is built to quite a wide standard compared to the one that people had issues with in the past, which is the section through town coming from the north by Monahan Ford and Grimshaw Trucking. That was only a 9-meter roadway. This is quite a bit wider. Again, the contract is closed.
So it's nothing.
Would be an extra.
It would be an extra. It would be an amendment to the contract, and usually the contractor, anytime that you monkey with the contract, will make sure that it's worth their while.
Yeah.
So.
Also with their design, the residents in the McHugh Cemetery weren't very cooperative, and they had to move the road design over so that they were trying to match the road that goes past Pops to keep it going straight down there. They had to do a bit of a alignment in there because they couldn't take no land from the cemetery, from McHugh Cemetery.
The residents complain?
The residents didn't complain, no.
They're up in arms.
They did, the MD as part of this whole road project did purchase an extra 5 meters on the north side of that existing road. I'd like to just, yeah, I'd like to just caution council that what we're talking about as town's participation in this is the sewer.
Yes.
Basically, that is an MD road, so it would be the MD that would have to raise those concerns.
So then the concerns should be directed to the, although, it is in our town, it's still, is it in our town?
No.
No, it's not in our town, of course.
We own the south ditch. Property line.
Vern, just a question on the cost, why is it gone up basically twice what we thought it would likely be? Is there?
The original estimates were done in early 2011, and we stuck with those. We're talking with the engineers, that we can stick with those throughout the planning, and it's just cost. It was tendered. This is the lowest bid. There's not much we can do. It's the cost of doing business now. It's the same as our 49th Street contract, right?
And it is actually was brought up that the hospital is having the same problems. They're using old numbers, and now they're finding out there's something like 40 million short. So we're not the only ones that have not updated the numbers. So We have a motion, are there any other? Dan, yes, Mr. Walker?
I just think it's a good thing to do because it also gives us the opportunity to investigate sewer for the rest of the East Industrial area through probably a low pressure system, and we could continue on doing that and offer maybe a local improvement down there for those people in the sewer as well.
All right. Yes,
I
Mr. Grant?
That's a good point. Are we looking at building that so it's, you know, if we expand further to the east or maybe to the north there, you know, in the future with an annexation or something, would that be feasible with what we're putting in there?
What's being put in is going to allow us to do a low pressure system. We can't do gravity because it's coming up too fast as we go to the west. So that's almost to our limitations to that intersection where we're going to as far as the gravity system goes. The extension as part of the hospital's portion of or AHS portion there, they're extending that sewer line to the east to their driveway for their service, which in turn allows future expansion to the north, which is actually empty property. They're servicing, as part of this, they're servicing the school divisions up to the property line and the 5 acres that is owned by the Pavine Métis settlement on the north side. So those properties will be serviced in which we can, it's our utility, but they'll have it to the property line. So there'll be some discussions when, if they ever decide to use those.
So it's built big enough to,
Yes.
to increase and,
Okay. All in favor then? It's carried. I'm going to take a break now. 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and who gives me something? Like, really showing me something. No, Rich just gave me something.
Probably some wisdom for people to bring their garbage, because there's a lot of,
Yeah, I'm gonna, let's see here.
like, I've had a couple of
Pitch in
folks
week,
when you want
that's
to
cool.
keep things under control.
So it's going to change to
I think the kitchen week.
people meeting the control site, approve residents. Approve the
I
residents.
think kitchen week
Okay,
is
they're,
one of the best
okay,
things
this
to
one,
not
no.
hyperagents.
Okay.
Okay, this,
Whatever.
it's that.
That might, like, it's coming up soon. Next, not next week, next, I'm hoping to have. Let's save it for next week. I'm hoping to have. a schedule for Friday.
Pitching week is one of this thing town of Prairie does, because, or
It is, it helps
yeah.
the town's residents.